It's time for an encounter of the bat kind, and we're going one-on-one with the biggest of them all, the flying fox. But before you get in a flap and duck for cover, there's something you should know. These creepy creatures of folklore aren't so creepy after all. In fact, they can be cute and cuddly. Meet Cinderella. She's the star of the show. This is her fairy tale, a flight back to freedom against impossible odds. Flying Fox fairy tale begins in Australia and a small country town in New South Wales called Wauchope. Wildlife carer Meredith Ryan is on a mercy dash. A large flying fox is tangled in barbed wire. While flying foxes have better eyesight than us, it's thought they get distracted when feeding and don't watch where they're going.
You'll be right, girl. Come on, here you go. There, come on. That's all right. Just here.
If it doesn't drink soon, it will die from dehydration. Meredith must act fast. The wire is cutting circulation to the foot and slashing the wings. The more it struggles, the more damage it's doing.
Oh, she's just so entangled. There's no way we'll get her off without cutting the fence.
It's a female, and she's really thirsty.
Good girl.
Meredith's giving her a quick fix of apple juice to boost the energy levels.
Good girl. How's she now? How's she now? Good, you're not damaged.
Now comes the tricky part, untangling the wire. A very delicate operation as the membrane of the wing is incredibly fragile.
That's a good girl.
This flying fox has gotten off lightly. Just a few punctures that should heal in a couple of weeks. It's now off to the Flying Fox foster home for some tender, loving care. Orphaned, injured or abandoned, this is where flying foxes come when they have nowhere else to go. Meredith's caring for 5 little ones, all of them named after fairy tale characters. Her youngest house guest is Cinderella, just a week old. She's got a lot to learn. The first lesson is feeding. Then comes flying. Once airborne, it's off to Flying Fox finishing school, graduation, and a final flight to freedom. There's a long journey ahead, but Meredith's confident Cinderella's story will have a happy ending. Cinderella might be tiny, but one day she'll grow into a huge bat with a wingspan of over 1 metre. There are over 60 types of bats in Australia. Cinderella is a grey-headed flying fox and part of the megabat family, the largest of them all. In the wild, she'd be sleeping high in the treetops, with thousands of flying foxes bickering and calling to each other. They're tailor-made for life outdoors. When it's hot, their wings make great fans. They're also perfect for sheltering a little one. Flying foxes are mammals and, like us, they give birth to babies, suckling them on a nipple. When a mother runs into trouble, it's more than likely she'll have a youngster with her. That's where Meredith comes in. Meredith doesn't just care for flying foxes, she heads a local group of carers called Fauna, taking in any animal, injured or orphaned. Katie is an eastern grey kangaroo. She's more human than Roo and won't leave Meredith's side. Katie was being looked after by inexperienced carers who treated her as a pet. Now Meredith has to teach her to be a real kangaroo. While Katie wants all the attention, more pressing matters are at hand. Drought is sucking the life out of Meredith's land. It's been nearly 18 months since any significant rain. Feed and water are disappearing fast. The flying foxes are really suffering. Most of their diet is nectar from blossoms, but without water these plants are dying. As the food supply dries up, flying foxes are losing strength and becoming too weak to fly. It means certain death unless help arrives fast.
Here's your mama, little precious. Oh, yes.
It's been 2 days, and Cinderella is coping well with the trauma of losing her real mum. She's bunking in with Hansel and Gretel. Their company makes her feel more secure. Feeding time is always hectic. Everyone's fighting for Meredith's attention, but she can only feed one at a time.
Okay, you finished? There you go, sweetheart.
This dummy mimics their mother's nipple. In the wild, they'd constantly be hanging onto it, stopping the baby's falling off when she's flying.
Do you want your dump, sweetheart?
Baby flying foxes have specially developed backward-facing milk teeth, which allows them to clamp on, giving them that extra grip.
That's what we wanted. You hungry girl.
Even Katie is getting in on the action, though she prefers sucking her toe. The drought continues and the fires have come. It was only a matter of time. Temperatures are soaring and gusting winds have sparked hundreds of blazes across Australia. The fires are vital for plant regeneration. They cause the eucalyptus and banksia trees to crack their seed pods, stimulating new growth. The downside is many native animals aren't fast enough to escape the flames. Once the fires have passed, the casualties can be counted. This little guy was brought in suffering smoke inhalation. He's an insect-eating bent-wing bat, part of the microbat family, a lot smaller than flying foxes. He's sucking out the insides of a mealworm. You wouldn't catch a flying fox doing this. They're strictly vegetarian. While flying foxes live in trees, microbats are found in caves, roofs, or even the folds of your coat if you leave it hanging outside. They look sweet, but they have a nasty nip. That's why all bat carers must be vaccinated against the deadly Lissa virus, which can be transmitted by bats. But Meredith is quick to point out the virus is carried by less than 2% of the entire bat population. It's a spectacular sight. Thousands of flying foxes stretching their wings in flight as they head into the night in search of food. They're all looking for the same thing, a juicy flower to slip their tongues into, and they'll travel up to 40 kilometres a night to find it. While flying foxes can see well in the daylight, the moonlight helps them detect the food they eat. It reflects off their favourite blossoms, which are either white, cream or pale yellow. They also eat fruit, causing millions of dollars damage to crops. But it's the grey-headed flying fox that's suffering the greatest casualties. They're being killed by farmers and their food trees cleared for development. If things don't change, the grey-headed flying fox will be extinct in 20 years. That's why Meredith's work is so important.
Bath time. Who's going to be first? Who's going to be first?
Caring for flying foxes is a full-time job. In the wild, their mothers would be constantly grooming them to keep them clean. In captivity, Meredith's going for the next best thing, a bath.
Here you go, darling. Lovely, lovely bath. Now just grab the glasses. There's a girl.
Foxes really do get a bad rap. Most people think of them as dirty and smelly, surrounded by a sea of guano or bat droppings. But this isn't the case. The strong smell associated with bats comes from an odour the males secrete when they're competing with each other for females and roosting sites. In fact, odours are incredibly important in the bat world, especially if you're a baby bat. Each little one has their own individual scent, which their mother can identify. Without it, it would be almost impossible to find which baby belongs to which bat.
What a pretty little bat. You're a pretty, beautiful boy, aren't you?
Cinderella doesn't have to worry. Meredith always knows where to find her. Well, most of the time. It seems Cinderella would rather be exploring than hanging out to dry with the others. Now to some of Meredith's noisiest house guests. There's no such thing as table manners when it comes to baby birds. While flying foxes are happy with fruit, these black-faced cookie shrikes prefer a more meatier menu. Today, Meredith's preparing a feast of ox heart and hard-boiled egg, with one extra special ingredient. It's important to add a bit of movement to the menu. In a few weeks' time, the birds will be old enough to start hunting. So it's important they know what to look for.
Here you go, little darlings.
It's been nearly 2 months and Cinderella is having a ball. She's convinced Meredith is her mum and is always hanging around. This bonding time is really important. It makes the little ones feel loved, and there's nothing better than a good back rub. It sends Cinderella weak at the wings.
Oh, yes, I love you too, but I really don't want your little sharp bits in my ear. No, or in my mouth, or up my nose.
All of the youngsters are off the bottle and on the solids. Cinderella is having a few problems. In the wild, she'd feed hanging upside down from a tree. This clothes hanger requires a bit more manoeuvring. Finally, she figures it out and is making up for lost time. After dinner, it's time for a nap, although not everyone is sleepy. Flying foxes are incredibly inquisitive, and Cinderella is finding the camera just too inviting. The fires are still burning, and another casualty has arrived on Meredith's doorstep. This time it's a kangaroo with terrible burns. Meredith's named her newest recruit Phoenix because he quite literally rose from the ashes.
All his eyes, his nose, his ears, you can see he's lost the outer edge of his ears.
He's also lost his toenails. Meredith's not sure if they'll ever come back. If they don't, he'll have a hard time hopping, as kangaroos rely on their toes to get a good grip in the soil before springing off. Only time will tell. One thing's for sure, we'll be seeing a lot more of Phoenix. But for now, we'll leave him to his dreams. The flying foxes are growing up. Cinderella is constantly stretching her wings, building up those muscles, getting ready for flight. Bat wings are amazing. They're made up of an arm that ends in a wrist with a thumb and 4 separate fingers. That makes for great flight. In fact, bats are unique in that they're the only mammals in the world capable of an active, sustained flight. In good conditions, flying foxes have been found to cruise at speeds of up to 35 kilometres an hour for hours at a time.
Come kids, come on, waddle.
Wherever Meredith goes, her foster family follows.
Katie, Phoenix, come on.
Out here, there's far more competition for Meredith's affections. All her pouches are full, with 7 roos on the hop. Phoenix is looking a lot better. His whiskers have grown back and stubs are forming where his toenails were.
Katie, Katie.
But the best news is, Phoenix has a new friend, Katie. They've become inseparable. The more time Katie spends with Phoenix, the more she'll learn about being a real kangaroo. This could be the start of a beautiful romance. Just as a toddler learns to take its first steps, Cinderella is warming up. She's about to lift off. Meredith is encouraging her to take the leap, just as her real mother would. The reward is a nice cuddle from Mum.
Hi, darling. Oh, sweetheart.
That makes it worth giving it another go. Meredith's young chargers are right on track for stage 2 of their education, Flying Fox Finishing School.
Oh, I'm going to miss you too. I'm going to miss you too, my little darling. Hey, yes I am.
Flying foxes have few natural enemies. Most of the time they're safe up in the trees. There's only one creature that can reach them, snakes, and that's what Meredith has in her bag. She's rescued a large python from a neighbour's house, but rather than killing it, she's releasing it. It's not for her to interfere with nature, and besides, pythons do a great job cleaning up the rats and mice around the house. The heat wave continues. The mercury has hit a staggering 40 degrees. The kangaroos are really suffering. While they're used to the heat, even they have their limits. Meredith has come up with a solution.
Lovely, lovely bath. So cool you down, sweetheart. Yes, good girl. Oh, you're a bedraggled looking thing now, aren't you? Hey, but you'll feel a lot better. Yes, you will. There you go.
Phoenix has already had his dip, soothing those itchy burns. Even the flying foxes are feeling the heat. They haven't quite mastered the art of fanning themselves. That's something they'll pick up once they're in the wild. All of the animals are growing up fast.
Oops, oops. Oh, don't get it.
It won't be long before the roos are leaving their pouches and sleeping outside. But the final farewell is a lot closer for Meredith's flying foxes.
Hi, sweeties. This is it, you know. This is it. You're going to have to go off to creche today.
Cinderella is finally leaving home. She's on her way to Flying Fox Finishing School, where she'll meet lots of youngsters just like herself. It looks like Cinders can hardly wait.
There we go. Come on, sweeties. Come on. Come on. Come on.
There's nothing else Meredith can teach her. She must learn the rest of her lessons from other bats.
There we go. There we go. There we go, sweets. There we go. I'm going to miss you guys. I'm going to miss you guys. Yes, I am. Hey, he's a good chap. Well, here we are, kids. Auntie Manda's. They'll be pleased that the bumping's over too. Yes.
Meredith isn't the only person caring for flying foxes. Recent years have seen a swelling of support for these furry little creatures.
Yes, yes. So these are from Margaret Nagon's.
Dozens of pupils are already waiting to enrol, but Cinderella is jumping the queue.
Now we have a body female.
Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Amanda Boardman is the school's headmistress. She's checking in the new arrivals.
She's beautiful, that.
The first job is weighing the bats. This will be the best way of keeping track of their health. If they start to lose weight, it means they're in trouble. Identifying them is another matter. The metal band is a poor substitute for a glass slipper, but it's the only way to keep track of who is who. Now they've got their name tags, it's time for Meredith to say goodbye.
Sometimes you can't wait to get rid of them, but when the day comes, it is a bit of a wrench. Isn't it, hey matey?
This will be Cinderella's home for the next 4 weeks.
Yes.
Here she'll study bat etiquette, how to communicate and socialise with a large group.
Come on, Gretel. Here you go. Here you go.
Soon she'll have to get along with thousands of bats living in a colony. She'll need to know how to handle herself.
Oh, you're having a fight. Okay, come on. You've got to let them sniff you so they get to know you. Don't you?
It's turning into a bat free-for-all. Initial greetings can be a little feisty as the animals establish a hierarchy.
And when you see them like that, you can't even recognise your own baby.
This is the first time these guys have been exposed to the elements. It's important they get used to the outdoors before they hit the release site. From now on, Cinders is on her own, although Meredith will be back for the occasional visit. In the wild, Cinderella can look forward to many years ahead of her. Bats can live up to 20 years. One of the best places to see them is at the Woodend Bat Reserve in Brisbane, home to up to 400,000 bats. A spectacular sight, and it's nice to know that one day Cinders will also be part of this Flying Fox spectacular. Finally, the rain comes. There's furniture and roofs flying everywhere. Meredith is risking her life trying to save the animals. Minutes later, the fury dies down.
Meredith, there's one in the computer room I've just put in. Yeah, I've got it through. Alright, where's it coming in?
All through the house.
Oh, God.
This time, it's Meredith who is calling for help. She's managed to save all the animals. They're badly shaken, but no one seems seriously injured. There was nothing she could do about the roof. The sheer force of the wind has ripped off the corrugated iron.
We've had the worst drought, now the worst storm. It sounds like the Vicar of Dibley about the great flood, the great storm. Wow, I'm overwhelmed.
The shock is starting to set in. There's a trail of damage across the property.
That has just picked up that and oh my God.
The dog kennel and roo shed have been completely destroyed.
That's your root.
But it's the loss of the trees that's really upsetting. They'll take years to grow back.
Oh dear, it's not one thing, it's another.
There's no time for tears. The storm survivors are already making themselves heard. This young, noisy minor bird is just the first of many casualties. Meredith must clear a path along the main road so the injured animals can get to her.
What have you got?
Listen, I've found this little bird down the road, little kestrel.
Birds are always the big losers in a storm. They're blown out of their nests or become waterlogged so they can't fly. This little fellow should be okay once he dries out. It's shaping up to be a busy week, and Meredith's going to need her sleep. There's still no electricity, but at least none of Meredith's precious foster family has been hurt. Daylight and the full extent of the storm becomes evident. It's cut a path of destruction through the countryside. While it's missed Cinderella and the Flying Fox Finishing School, it's hit the area where Cinderella is due to be released. The Wing and Brush Reserve has lost one of its oldest trees.
Between 700 and 1,000 years, and they reckon she's just breaking because it's the end of her life.
Luckily, there are still plenty of other trees for the flying foxes to roost in.
What on earth have you got in here?
That's a little potty calf that's
Isn't it
mother
gorgeous?
wouldn't take it, so
Meredith is flat out checking on Fauna's wildlife carers.
Is she okay?
yeah, she's done really well. We've given her a bottle. She's just due for another one.
This potty calf would have to be the biggest storm victim, abandoned after its mother bolted.
Come on. That's a cow. Good cow.
She's got plenty of company. These rosellas were blown out of their nest, while this baby sugar glider lost its mum after its tree was uprooted. Amanda has also been taking in some new house guests.
She's not savage, she's just excited because she can smell the meat.
Quolls are incredibly rare, and this mother has 4 babies.
And she knows the rattle of the door means meat coming in. Okay, there you go.
She won't share her food with anyone, not even the youngsters. They have to steal it from her. This little one has summoned up the courage to give it a go, but he's about to make a huge mistake. He confuses his mum's arm for a piece of chicken. She's not happy. As the casualties keep coming, the good news is the local community has rallied to help the carers. They've donated towels and rags which can be used as bedding for the animals.
Absolutely amazing, the public. And cash donations, just heartwarming.
Finally, Meredith finds the time to get back to Flying Fox Finishing School. She's loaded with desperately needed food supplies. This lot will last about 4 days. 62 flying foxes are now fighting for space. Some are fast learners, others aren't. Bats are meant to turn the other way when they go to the toilet. It's easy to see why. Of course, there are times when a urine bath is perfectly acceptable. Bats will rub it on the back of their neck to stimulate the scent glands, marking their territory in a campsite. Overall, the youngsters are progressing well. There's certainly far less fighting going on, so they must be learning their manners. With so many new faces, Meredith's having trouble finding Cinderella. The reason soon becomes obvious. She's slipped out during one of the feeds. Now she has her freedom, she wants to get back in with her mates.
Hi, Cinders. Can we have a cuddle?
It's Mother Meredith to the rescue one last time.
What a clever girl. And I bet you didn't miss me at all, did you? You didn't miss me one little bit, did you?
Well,
She knew you would come in today, that's why she jumped out.
While Cinders will soon be heading to the release site, not all the bats are so fortunate. This flying fox has suffered shocking wind damage. Its flying days are over. This is where it will hang up its wings and become part of Fauna's educational flying fox colony.
And he opens his wings on command. Open your wings.
These guys play an important role. It's all about giving the flying foxes a better public image. If you're still not convinced we should be saving flying foxes, here's another reason, and a very important one. Flying foxes are vital in pollinating plants and keeping the cycle of life going. When they stick their noses and very long tongues into flowers, they end up covering themselves in pollen. This pollen then brushes off onto the next plant they fly onto. They also carry seeds in their mouths, which they disperse long distances away. If flying foxes disappeared, who knows what would happen to the Australian bush? While Meredith's bats will soon fly off for good, her roos often return for a visit. She's rescued and released dozens of them, and still remembers each one by name.
Friday! Friday! Nanook! Nanook! You're safe. It's okay.
It's a great opportunity for Katie and Phoenix to observe wild behaviour. That way they'll know how to behave when they come up against a huge alpha male like this one. Phoenix's wounds have just about healed. He'll soon have a clean bill of health and return to the bush.
Hi kids. You hungry birds? Hi guys.
As the weeks pass, the storm victims are growing and gaining strength. Tawny frogmouths are incredible. They're built for night hunting, with a little antenna above their beak, warning them when they're getting too close to things. They're also colour coordinated to blend into their surroundings.
Good bird. There you go. Down the hatch. Down the hatch.
It's normally mice on the menu, but today it's dog kibble. Not too flash, but it does the job.
Oh, temper.
They might be picky about their food, but there's no complaints when it comes to bath time. They love it. It cools them down and checks their feathers are fully grown and waterproof before they're released. Cinderella and her friends are leaving Flying Fox Finishing School. They're on their way to the release site at Wingham Brush. The bad news is it's been raining again and the river is threatening to flood. Meredith could get stranded, so she has to move fast.
That's good. That will hold the room together nicely. I hope.
A couple of hours more and she could have been stuck for days. This is Cinderella's final destination. there are plenty of new faces to meet as the flying foxes get ready for graduation.
Okay, here we go. Look. Listen to all those big bats. Listen to all those big bats there, darlings, hey?
121 bats are just days away from their final liftoff.
Here we go. No, don't bite me. Here we go. Yes.
They'll soon be joining thousands of wild flying foxes. But first, they have to get used to the sights and sounds of their new surroundings. Night is approaching fast. Outside, the colony is getting ready to head out for the evening. Inside creche, the flying foxes sense the excitement. They're reacting as they should, stretching their wings, warming up, getting ready for flight. But Cinders won't be going to the ball tonight. When someone offers a wildlife carer a freebie, there's only one thing to do. Grab it.
That's the easy bit.
The local hospital has donated Fauna a second-hand humidity crib. Just like premature human babies, this will be perfect for caring for the really little animals.
Wonderful. Thank you.
The farewells are about to start. The tawny frogmouths are going home.
There we go.
They're fully waterproof, well fed, and ready to take on the outside world. Meredith's releasing them at the exact spot they were found. It's important to do this with all wild animals, as they have their territory already marked out.
It's a lovely tawny tree.
That camouflage doesn't work too well on the railing, but it's perfect in the trees. It's turning into a week for goodbyes. Phoenix is back on his feet, with a bit less spring in his step. One of his toenails hasn't grown back. He's got some competition for Katie's affections. Rupert is a large male Meredith released 4 years ago, and he's returned to claim Katie as his own.
Hello, Rupert. How are you, Rupert Roo? Oh, yes, you're a fine big boy. Have you come to take my girl Katie away?
Katie doesn't look too interested. Rupert is unperturbed. He's trying to find a way in. Meredith is giving the Roos their last bottle. They're both on grass now, but still enjoy the occasional bottle from Mum. There's no putting off the inevitable. It's time to break the bonds once and for all.
Rupert, you there?
Katie is taking some convincing. You can't blame her. Rupert must be a rather daunting sight.
Come on. There we go.
You're a big boy.
It's Phoenix to the rescue. Though with that strange hop and singed ears, he hardly looks like a knight in shining armour.
Now, Rupert, you be nice. Don't you be horrible to Phoenix. I know you've got to keep him in his place, but not too rough. You be a good boy. Mine, she's mine. You can't have her. That's what he's saying. And I think Katie's saying, I don't particularly want you.
Rupert's had a good sniff. It looks like Katie isn't in heat. She's been let off for now, but Rupert will continue to guard her until she's ready to mate. There's nothing Phoenix can do. He heads off into the wilderness alone.
Hello, Bobby. Can you get off so that we can lift this door without you? It would be really good.
The big night has finally arrived. Cinderella is 21 weeks old, and what a 21st. She's about to go to the Flying Fox Ball.
Oh, well done. Okay, kids, freedom. Sometimes when we open it, they just all sit in there like blobs and don't even come out, but tonight they're looking pretty excited, so...
This will be the first time she's stretched her wings over any distance. All the bats are excited, yet very cautious, staying close to the cage where they feel safe. Slowly they edge their way out. The barbed wire looks dangerous, but they've had enough time to see it and they know to tread carefully. Finally, Cinderella makes it to the opening. She's giving her wings a good test run.
I'm shedding a tear. Yeah, come on. Ah, this is just magic though, isn't it? You know, when you think they wouldn't have had a hope.
Then the moment Meredith's been working so hard for.
Oh, she's loving it. Nice up this tree.
Nice that elbow.
Yes, up there, up the top, going into the leaves.
The others start to follow. They're not going far. Just as a toddler is unsure of its feet, the flying foxes have to learn to trust their wings. It could be days before they get up the courage to fly further. When they do, they'll be joining the main colony, boosting the number of flying foxes in the wild. Cinderella's wish of returning to the bush has finally come true, all thanks to her fairy godmother.
Yeah, come on, sweet. Oh, that was a good one. Come on, kids.
From now on, Cinderella will be going it alone, with only the moonlight to guide her.